How's it going, everyone? Coming off the heels of the announcement of Kingdom Hearts 4, which I did a quick video on. I'll probably talk about it a little bit more in a future video, but I am quite liking the look of it, and I'm excited for it when it comes out in 2032. However, that game was listed on the Geforce Now database, and that database, oh baby, am I getting some Walmart Canada type flashbacks on that. If you don't know, Walmart Canada a few years ago kind of leaked a big portion of the E3 lineup one year, and this Geforce Now database, oh baby, has it been on point quite well. We've seen things like God of War PC, we've seen things like Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection, Chrono Cross Remastered, Kingdom Hearts 4 also being on there. Crisis 4, I believe, was also listed on there. There's obviously a couple games that have yet to come to fruition, but there was also the GTA remasters, by the way, and with Kingdom Hearts 4 being on the GeForce Now database, Final Fantasy IX Remake was also a part of the GeForce Now database, so this is something that's pretty interesting because, of course, we know that Square Enix is working on the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and that already has some mixed receptions about the release pattern. Look, Square Enix knows that that's a game that is pretty much a license to print money. They can make an absurd amount of money with that game, and if you haven't picked up on it, yes, to the naked eye, it just seems like they're piecemealing the game to the consumer. 4 parts. Yeah, you could you could look at it that way, but they're even going a step beyond. Look, they're getting money from Sony for a timed exclusivity on that game. Then they're getting money from Epic Games Store for it being a timed exclusive on that platform, and then ultimately you'd have to imagine that the game's going to be released on Steam, and I would imagine Xbox One. I figured that that's going to be the final release for Part 1. It's going to be the Steam release and Xbox One release. Probably those two are going to be at the same time. I don't see why you would release those two separately, but look at it this way. This is what they've done with FF7 Remake Part 1. Released on the PlayStation 4. 1 year later, released on the PlayStation 5. 6 months later, released on the Epic Games Store as a exclusive, I would imagine, for a lengthy time period. And then ultimately, you would think that they're gonna release it on Steam and Xbox One. So, you know, Square Enix knows what they have with the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I know for us, that is not the ideal way to get a game. It would be nice if the game just hit all platforms at the same time. But with Final Fantasy IX, I saw, you know, as we're talking about it more, VGC brought this up, that it was a part of the GeForce Now database leak, and now the discussion has been brewing on, hey, Final Fantasy IX, given this database leak, how on point it's been, probably will get a remake at some point. Now, will it be a Chrono Cross remastered type situation, or will it be a full-on remake like the FF7 remake, or will it be somewhere in between? Ideally, I'd like this to be somewhere in between. Look, I get it with FF7 Remake. They are printing a lot of money with that game. The exclusivity agreements, the releasing the game in multiple parts, I get it. It's honestly a little bit comical to me how they're doing it, but hey, if it makes them money, they're gonna do it. However, I don't know if you can go down that rabbit hole again with Final Fantasy IX. I don't know, maybe you can. This is just my, speculation, but I also think doing it with FF9 like you're doing with FF7, it's gonna ultimately dilute both games extremely. I think you can get away with it with FF7 just because, even more so than FF9, and I know a lot of the more hardcore Final Fantasy fans prefer FF9 over FF7, but I think you'd be ridiculous to claim that as far as mainstream appeal and a game that is, you know, if you want to talk about how iconic a game is, I mean, Cloud is a character that is far more iconic than any character in FF9. I'm sorry if that upsets people, and I loved FF9 like a lot of you guys. But that's just the reality of the situation, and FF7 Remake just had so much built-up anticipation going back to E3 of 2005 when we saw that, the tech demo on the PlayStation 3, and people have been wanting it, and then, the announcement came, and that game was just a perfect storm for Square Enix to milk it for all it's worth. Again, I think going back to the well a second time with Final Fantasy IX not only would hurt Final Fantasy IX at this point, but it would also hurt Final Fantasy VII, and then I think people would just meme on Square Enix to death, being like, bro, why are you doing this? So in my opinion, the best route would be to go somewhere in between the Chrono Cross remaster and the Final Fantasy VII Remake, in that yo, let's up the visuals, let's make this, you know, more of a remake than what Chrono Cross was, but at the same time, we don't have to break this game up into multiple parts, we don't have to change a ton about the game, and I think ultimately that's how Final Fantasy IX, a potential remake, would be the most successful. I don't put it past Square Enix to look for exclusivity agreements. Look, if they can sign 8-figure deals with Sony and with Epic Game Store, if they can piecemeal the game out to the consumer and they see, yo, this is the best way to do it and they're gonna make a ton of money, they're gonna get these fat checks from Sony and the Epic Game Store, they probably will do it. At the end of the day, for Square Enix, it's a business. It's about making the most money that they possibly can. But I think that'll have, you know, some long-term ramifications for people's perception of Square Enix. But, you know, maybe that's just me being a little bit pessimistic with that route. I just don't think... Final Fantasy VII is a special game where I think you can get away with doing what they're doing, and again, even with me, yeah, they're making a ton of money, but I find it a little bit comical how hard they're going with segmenting the releases, because again, yes, it's probably going to be 4 or 5 parts, but within those parts, it's like another 3 or 4 parts to get the game on every platform, while at the same time, collecting fat checks from third parties. It's honestly pretty incredible how Square Enix has been able to manage monetizing FF7 Remake to the point I'm just like, yo, honestly, points to Square Enix for figuring out how to do that and securing deals like that. I wish we could actually get the financials of how much money Sony paid, how much money EGS paid, and then specific sales numbers, because the game is still gonna sell incredibly, incredibly well. You're just adding third-party revenue streams on top of that. But nonetheless, I feel like I should be talking more about a potential FF9 remake, but, you know, I do say that FF7 is you know, no doubt the more iconic game comparatively speaking to FF9. However, if FF9 got a remake and it was up to a AAA standard, you know, more so than what Chrono Cross was, and Chrono Cross generated some buzz, but ultimately it wasn't a full-on remake. If we got a full-on remake of FF9 and it got announced, it looked incredible, bro, it would get people incredibly excited. That buzz would circulate through social media, and I'm not saying it would sell as well as a FF7 remake, but it could get pretty damn close, I think. Especially if you do bow out of, you know, doing any exclusivity agreements, but at that point, I mean, if Sony's offering, you know, an 8-figure paycheck, Epic Game Store's offering an 8-figure paycheck, that's just going towards the cost of developing the game, and if you're getting that kind of gigantic payouts before even selling the game, yo, it's a business. Like I said, I can't really begrudge Square Enix for doing that. It's just hilarious to me if they do go down that route. And hey, maybe some people will be like, why is Square Enix doing this? I'll tell you why they're doing it, because there's a lot of money in it. And it's not just with the FF7 remake. As far as Epic Game Store goes on PC, Neo: The World Ends With You, Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins. Those are the 2 right off the top of my head. There could be other games. Kingdom Hearts, of course. The Kingdom Hearts titles, those are on PC, but just on the Epic Game Store. We don't know exactly what the payoffs have been, but they are probably pretty significant. And then you also have to imagine Kingdom Hearts 4 running on Unreal Engine 4 right now, ultimately going to be transitioning into Unreal Engine 5, so that's an interesting tidbit as well. Could easily see that being on PC, of course, with the Geforce Now leak, and could see that being an Epic Game Store exclusive as well, and I think that's something to think about when talking about FF9. But personally speaking, if it was up to me, I would like to see the game not be segmented into parts. I wouldn't like the game to be altered all too much. Just do a bigger remake and, yeah, $60, $70, however you want to go about that, and make it a compelling title. You know, as far as exclusivity agreements go, I would like to see the game just be available on every platform, but I get it. There's a lot of big deals to be signed, and I can't really begrudge Square Enix from that standpoint. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Look, I'd love to check out FF9 with modern technology enhancing the game, it running on a modern engine, and depending on which side of the spectrum it lies on, is it going to be more leaning towards what the Chrono Cross remaster is, or is it going to be more towards what the FF7 remake is? And again, I think the ideal scenario for us would be somewhere in the middle. But that's going to do it for me. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. Interested to hear what you guys think. Sorry if I sound a little bit out of it. Still recovering from this cold, so hopefully I'll get better pretty soon. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. Again, comment section down below. Want to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.